story. Well, Lynn Savage is a retired sheriff's deputy in Jacksonville, Florida. Just days ago, she was arrested and thrown in jail. Her crime? She wanted to stay with her daughter, Amber, in the hospital as her daughter recovered from brain surgery. Amber is nonverbal and partially paralyzed. But the hospital's COVID regulations ban visitors after 7 p.m. So when Lynn Savage refused to leave her daughter's side, she was arrested by the police. Lynn Savage joins us tonight. Lynn Savage, really appreciate your coming on. This is the kind of story that upset me even to read that script. Tell us what happened to you.
My daughter had a stroke in 2015. As a result of the stroke, they removed part of her skull to reduce the swelling. And then they replaced that portion of the skull. Over several years, that portion of the skull fell and started to fuse to her brain. So we went in on Monday to have that taken care of. What they would do is go in and the same incision, take that skull out because the weight of it was affecting her aphasia and apraxia. She's nonverbal. And then they would replace it with a prosthesis.
So the hospital said at 7 o'clock you have to leave your daughter's side.
Right.
Tell us what hospital, please name the hospital if you would. What hospital is this?
University of Florida on Max Leggett.
Okay. So they told you you have to leave because COVID, and you said no. What happened next?
I told them that I wasn't going to leave my daughter's side. She had taken a turn for the worse. They did another MRI, and this MRI was worse than the one right after her surgery. Also, her body temperature had fallen to below 90 degrees.
Oh.
And Amber doesn't speak, and prior to that, she had just become frantic, and she was pulling out tubes and things, so the doctor had asked me to stay there and keep her calm, which is what I was doing. I had been with her since 6:30 in the morning. And what I was doing was just keeping her calm, and I'm pretty much her advocate for communication and decision making because she's nonverbal.
Patients need advocates, and all of us have seen friends or loved ones who've been left without advocates in the hospital, and it's not someone you ever want to leave a loved one, ever. So They arrested you. What did the hospital say? I mean, there must have been, a lot of nurses are nice people. Did they even say, this is outrageous, you shouldn't be arrested for staying with your daughter?
Well, the nurse came in and said visiting hours were over at 7, and I asked her to please contact somebody to make an exception because Amber she was frantic and she's unable to communicate. She was scared to death. The nurse refused to do that, and then she called security, and I explained to them that I'm not leaving my daughter. They have packed her in this rubber thing to bring her body temperature down. She was frantic, and I was able to help her breathe and be there, somebody that she understood and that she knew. And I wanted to stay, and I told them that I wasn't leaving. The nurse said she'd have to call security. I said, do whatever you have to do, but I'm not leaving my daughter's side.
Good for you. Good for you. I wish more Americans would take that, because I really thank you for doing that. But they handcuffed you?
Yes, they handcuffed me behind my back and led me out to the cruiser where I sat for 3 hours with my hands cuffed behind my back.
What was your crime? Were you spreading COVID to people? I mean, like, what did you do wrong exactly?
Stayed past 7 o'clock. They decided that visiting hours were over at 7 and I should leave. And I told them that I cannot, in good conscience, leave my daughter when I don't know whether she's going to live through the night. And that I wanted to stay, and they needed to do whatever it is they needed to do. But I wasn't leaving voluntarily. They'd have to take me out of there in handcuffs. And that's exactly what they did.
Well, they should be arrested. That's one of the worst things I've ever heard. That's awful, and I hope they're punished for it severely. Have they apologized to you?
The police officer that arrested me kept trying to talk me into just going home. He didn't want to arrest me. He tried to talk me into going home. And I'm telling him, go ahead, if you take the cuffs off, but I'm going back up to see my daughter. I am not leaving my daughter when I don't know if she's going to live.
Yeah. Well, I hope that hospital faces consequences for what they did to you. That's just absolutely awful. Lynn Savage.
There was no compassion.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the